Aaron worked in BBC before. It's Aaron that helped that. You see me there? I left BBC. How many years ago? Do this thing, and doors you don't need to go deep.
Spot on, sir. Thank you. Please put your hands together for me. So, I was done with school. I finished pretty early, 2008-ish. And I was done with my service after a year of strike. So I had 2 years of delay. And then, because somebody helped me take videos and pictures and probably send it to me later. So I can also put hashtag, promote what you're doing here because it's very important. If you don't promote what you learn from here, then you're a very, very selfish person. You are. If you have a social media handle and you don't promote whatever it is, either the lecture or you and your friends, use the hashtag, tag that particular initiative, you're a very selfish person. Don't do that. Okay? So please do make sure that you share it on social media. So I got done and I was crazy about being a journalist. This was what I wanted to do all my life. You asked me, even from when I was young, listening to the radio, this was what I wanted to do. But there was a big but. I was living in Fine River. How many of you are living in rural communities here? Actually, nobody's living in a rural community. People living in rural communities, you have a big chance to prove yourself. So I was living in Badagry, and Badagry as a back then was far away from Victoria Island and Ikoyi, as well as Ikeja, where most of the radio stations and the TV stations are at. And so I went here, I went there. The big problem wasn't my ability or capacity. The big issue was where I was living, my location. Because they asked, you're living in Badagry, how will you be coming to Ikeja and be going to Badagry? I told them I can't do it. Oh, I interned at Ray Power. I was going every day. I moved from just being somebody who was observing to being somebody who was writing a particular radio soap called Straight from the Heart. So I remember Straight from the Heart. I went in there, began to write scripts, and then I began to voice as an actor, and then I began to produce as a young person because they wanted the program to now capture the younger generation. Well, long story short, I was just giving them this is what I had done, and I can do it as well. And that should be a lesson to every one of you, like he said. If you're just dropping content on social media without people understanding the lesson, then you're just wasting your time. And that's one thing that gets you the job. It's not just going there, writing your CV, hey, I broadcast the news. There's nothing I broadcasted, please. I broadcast the news, I wrote this, I wrote this. What were you able to learn from that thing you have done, good or bad? And how much impact have you been able to make with that work you have done? And that's why he said your why is very important. The thing you're doing right now, why are you doing it? If you don't have a why, a purpose, I mean, you're just in the rat race, jumping up and down. And that's why you will open the phone lines and people will be saying a manner of things and you can't be able to impact people that are listening to you. So I told them this is what I had done and I can replicate it right here. But as it were, sometimes things don't just work because probably you need to learn a whole lot more. And so after trying, I got discouraged and I said, okay, what else can you do? Then we had cyber cafe. They didn't have access to smartphones like this. It was only the big people that afford it. We didn't afford 50,000 naira thing for crying out loud. I didn't even have a job, And so I had this small phone that could do some sort of recording. And so I went to cyber cafe, paid 100 naira, and after buffering, finally I was able to say, how can I be a radio presenter? Because I was crazy about the radio. A lot of people were telling me you have a great voice, you can talk, so do radio. TV wasn't really my vision at all. So I could be really present. So I kept scrolling. And then I went to the next page. And that's one lesson to every one of you as journalists. Don't stop at the first page. If you are browsing anything at all, on Google, on whatever, now we have the ChatGPT, we have the Google Bard and the rest of them. Don't stop at the first page because, of course, Google will always is based on ranking. And if you paid for SEO, it will bring you to the top, And that might not be what might give you the answer that you need. So I I went to the second page, I went to the third page, I went to the fourth page. I kept going. And then I began to see different results from what I had seen. And that was the first time I came very much in contact with the word podcast. Wow. Your own radio in your house. Okay. Of course, I had to come another day, and I kept going another day. I kept researching. They didn't teach me, but I just kept doing it. And then I realized that, okay, I could start my own radio station and get listeners from all over the world. I said, I like the concept of this. How can I start? Well, I had a small phone with me. And so what I would do, just this tiny girl, I just kept asking people around me, those who had failed JAM, those who about to go into school, those who had left school, what their experiences were. And it began with the footprint.xyz. I had no money to start a website, nothing. So I met a friend. Then it was a big deal. The footprint was the name of the podcast, but XYZ was the, what it is. And I would just go and ask questions. And people are willing to speak. They spoke, and then I met a friend. A friend would just help me put it together, just some disjointed thing. I'm not really proud of it now, but then I was like a big thing, and then I put it up. When I get people who watched or listened, when I didn't get people who listened, I didn't care. I just wanted to put it out there, and I felt fulfilled doing it. I just felt happy. And from one listenership, I just woke up one day and I saw 76. I was like, 76. I was like, wow. Because, of course, how it is, the online world gives you statistics of who engages with the content online. 76, wow. And then I got a comment, great job, you can do this. I got some nasty comments, well, it's not clear. Of course, I do it in the street, I didn't know much. And then I began to learn audio editing. Then I began to learn, how to structure my podcast. And I started listening to other podcasts. Internet situation got better in Nigeria. Smartphones became more available and more affordable. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to create a change. Because one thing I realized while I was doing that podcast was that most people walking in the streets of Lagos know nothing. That was one thing I realized. And that was how I found my purpose. I didn't know at first, really, sincerely speaking, it didn't come to me like magic, like God now said, Mercy, this is your purpose, go do it. No, that wasn't me, I found it. To make people know better, to do better, that's just it. That's just it for me. And that's why everything I do, all my gifts and skills are tied around this. I love to teach. And what does teaching do? It helps me know better, so I can do better. I'm on TV, I'm already talking issues around the country, around the continent, around the world. What is it? To help people know better, to do better. Everything I'm doing is just around that. And that's how I realized this is it, and I'm very comfortable. Hi, my ex-colleague is here, Emmanuel, great to see you. And I'm very comfortable doing it. Comfortable. It's not easy, but I'm comfortable. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to change something. And I started the Coach Speaks podcast. Then I already learned how to edit. I had a better film. So it was the same thing I did. It was a different kind of podcast. I was one of the first people who started podcasts in Nigeria. Yes, I was one of the first 5 people who started podcasts in Nigeria. Then I didn't know it was a big deal, but later on it became a big deal. And then I started the Coach Speaks. I put something extra in my podcast, and that earned me attention both in and outside of Nigeria. The small girl. Guess what? I hadn't started working in a radio TV station, but I was just doing my thing. And so what I did was that I added Vox Pop, the voice of the people, to it. The podcast that I had around them didn't have it. All they did was to invite somebody to either as an interview or they speak themselves, as experts. And that was the thing that made a difference for me. So we go around, the subject matter is about Thanksgiving, it could be about workplace, it could be about anything. So go ask people to prove if what I thought about the people that I was interviewing was right or wrong. Remember I said there's something I realized people do not really know. So I asked, I don't know, I'll ask, people just give some very vague answers. I ask, I get 1 or 2 good answers, and then I get the expert. I ask the person questions. The person listens to what the people say, that the people say, and the person responds to that. And I was like, the Coach Speaks began to grow. not just from Nigeria, not just from Africa, I began to have listeners from different parts of the world. I started interviewing the who's really in Nigeria. And before you know what happened, someone listened to my podcast. It just appeared on the person's Facebook page. Guess who that person was? The late Dan Foster. Funnily, I was working in a laboratory. That's why you should take strongly that place where you are now. Make that impact now. That's the only work you have. Now is the only time that you have. I was working in a laboratory there, Path Care Laboratories, and it was at that point that I met him. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn. Yes, I reached out to him on LinkedIn back then. I was bold enough, I went to his inbox, I said, Sasa, He said, I know you know BBC Voice Action. I wanted to know because we're training for journalists and the rest of it. I wanted to know. And he was kind enough to reply. That's why you should be kind to people anywhere, because you do not know where that person will get to. You have no idea. And he began to talk to me, began to encourage me, began to correct me, began to say, you do this, you do that, you do this. And I took everything that he said to heart. I took it to heart. And I was working in that laboratory. I started a program for the laboratory. That's impact, right? As the laboratory got to the podcast, I went there and I created a change. It was called Doctors on Air, where I invite doctors to come on radio to talk about health issues. We didn't have much of that. Doctors on Air, Classic FM, Lagos Talks, Nigerian FM, and now syndicated through across different stations in the sub-regions of Nigeria. And then I continued with that program. Then one day, one very good, I just saw one big guy just walk through. I said, I just moved on. Another Wednesday, I saw the big guy walk through. This time around, I saw him. I was strong. I was like, this is Dan Foster. I never knew he knew me. This is Dan Foster. Then so after the show, I just went to him. Hello, sir, good afternoon. Elevator pitch is important. I heard what he said. You meet big people at the VIPs at an event, and you can walk up to the person. But what you say is very important. And so I just walked up to him and said, wow, great sir, I listened to you so much. And what you said, and the way you broadcast, the way you speak to people really is inspiring and is helping me with my podcast, Coach Speaks. I said, what? Say it again. Are you Mercy? Are you Mercy? Oh my God, come over here. And that was how the conversation started. Exchange numbers, we began to talk on the phone. Before you knew what happened, one thing led to another thing. I began to work with Lagos Talks, Classic FM, and then TV came on the scene. Meanwhile, I had tried and applying for some other places I wanted to go to. But the problem with my application was that I wasn't showing the impact of the works I had been doing. And I hadn't been letting the recruiter know the lesson I have learned from the good or the bad. That was why most times I've come to realize now, with the benefit of insight, that was one of the jobs that I knew that I would get. Sometimes I get to the last part of it. I get to the final interview and discuss salary, but they don't get to call me. I didn't let that deter me. I just kept doing what I was doing. From there, TV came. I didn't want to be TV since a TV presenter. I really loved radio, really, sincerely speaking. But it came, I applied. And I got it, and that was Silverbird. I knew nothing about TV presentation. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But I got started as an online editor. I mean, this was a movies, online editor. Why? Person knew I had skills in online publishing. That was how I got started. So I started cutting the videos into bite sizes and put them on YouTube. I cut a bit of it. I opened an Instagram handle for the TV station, for the new Silverbird News 24, what we call it. It's the news arm of the company. And so I started posting little videos from what the people would see on TV. I put them there, and they began to grow in numbers. Traffic began to increase, and I began to get attention in the organization. I knew nothing. I just spent 5 years there. But that 5 years, I came from somebody who was at the very bottom of the rung of the ladder, being an online editor. Well, being somebody who posts on social media. Then I grew to become a reporter. From reporter, I grew to become a news anchor. From news anchoring, I started my own program. From there, within 5 years, I grew to become an anchor on the breakfast show. Sometimes I am left alone. I have a colleague here who can attest to these things. Sometimes I am alone on the show, a 3-hour show, and I will handle it. I will ask the questions I must be answered. Most times do my heart beat? Yes. Most times do my hands shake? Yes. But you know what? I'm human, and it's a sign that I'm alive. And what I'm doing is seemingly bigger than me, and I'm uncomfortable doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's how my career has progressed all through. So I kept trying. I signed up for scholarships. During COVID, yes. One day during COVID, I was just on my own, and I got an email from the BBC. The BBC Talk is a think tank of young journalists in Africa, where they exchange ideas. And the person sent a message to me, the program manager, oh, Mercy, we'd like you to give a talk on this and this and this and this. I was like, me. COVID-19 was when? When did we have the lockdown? 2022. 2020. March. Remember, I started my job at Silverbird 2018. August, to be precise. 2018. 2020. I got a message from the BBC to come talk to young journalists in Africa about not how to be a TV presenter, not how to be a radio presenter, not how to be a journalist, but how to leverage digital. That was it. And guess what? Somebody had listened to my podcast. And that was it. There are people who are most qualified who would be able to, have done that. But they reached out to me, took me through the process, and I handled a 1 hour, 15-minute session. And I got raving reviews after that. I think you're in the best place right now because most TV stations, radio stations, broadcast houses are moving digital. They're all going that way because that's where the whole world is at. Everybody looks at their phone almost every day, except for some people who decide to go on social media break. Everybody looks at social media at one point or the other. I'm working in TV, but I don't get to watch TV every day. But I must look at my phone every day. Either I answer, respond to WhatsApp messages, or I go on Instagram to watch videos, or I go on LinkedIn, or any other platform to do. That's where everybody is at now. And so I was called for that. And I felt fulfilled. So much fulfilled. So, most of the fellowships I've been able to attend, scholarships I had gotten, speaking engagements, it's not necessarily an interviews I've had. It's not necessarily because I'm a TV presenter. It's because I've been able to leverage the digital to pass across whatever message that needs to be passed across. That's why this thing you have in your hand, the data you are buying and making those telecommunications guide earning millions and billions. What is your share of that data? That's what I ask myself. If I drop 3,500 naira or 4,000 naira for maybe 12 gig, in 2 weeks, because it used to be a month before, but now in 2 weeks your data is finished, how much am I going to get back from it? And how much does not mean it has to be monetary compensation. Sometimes it might just be exposure. Because that exposure might just lead you to the next thing, big thing that will make you buy 2 or 3 or 4 cars. No, that's the truth. And that's what I realized. And listening to people like this helped me. I remember one time he came in, when I come to Mercy, you did where you were show. You first yap me. Yap me. It's okay. And then I'll just be there laughing. I'll just be laughing. And then you chip him on. There was a time, the last conversation we had was 1 hour plus. 1 hour plus. He spoke to me, told me that this is what I think you should do to take you to the next level. And I've started channeling my course towards that. So please, that phone you have in your hand is very important. Even with the social media thing you're doing, all the principles he spoke to you, right? From your brainstorming, your pre-production to your delivery, everything will still be used to get your stories done and to make an impact using the phone. So you don't have to wait for heaven to fall down. You don't have to wait for somebody to come and tell you, oh, you are good. You just have to show yourself. I'm reading a book right now on how to steal like an artist. I didn't think I needed the book. I bought that book from Ojolega on that page for 3,500. Oh, and when it comes to reading, I love to read. That's my escape route. I saw this book. The man said, buy this book and see you will like how to steal like an artist. I said, what is this? I just fixed the book. And I was reading it even when I was coming. And the guy said something very pivotal. If you want to wait until you are ready, you probably need to you've not been ready. Mm-hmm. It might not be perfect, but just start doing something. And you can start by broadcasting what you have. You just put your phone in front of you. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Oh, so ladies and gentlemen, what happened to me today was very interesting. You can even use pidgin. Ha! When I know what happened to me today. Hey! And that's how you start. So I went to this absolutely interesting training I had with ROU. My goodness, I never knew all the while I was thinking in the wrong way. You just don't know who is going to learn from it. So 3 minutes, you can break it down. Do one today, do one tomorrow, do one next week, and snap pictures. Put your pictures in between. You can do all that with your CapCut. You can do all that with Instagram. You can do all that. And you drop it on LinkedIn. You drop it on. People will be looking at you and see that, this guy is making a difference. People you are saying that are having hundreds and millions of followers, which is what something fell off my neck has not fallen off. Which you see, which you think are doing absolutely very great things. They're just doing small things and they're letting the whole world know. There's somebody on LinkedIn that has 150 followers. The person still comes to me and says, oh, this is what I want to do. How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? I'm telling myself, let me teach this person what to do. And the person gave 100,000 followers. You need to make your brain and take your social media to the next level. So when he was speaking, I was also telling myself that. So I want you all to, you can start with this. In fact, I am charging you now, urging you, pushing you to start with this. If you are shy, you will beat that shyness with this. You think it's not good enough? Hello? Even Christian Amato, who is one of my models, still makes some errors on air, but she catches herself, laughs over it, and moves on. Presidents of the world make errors in their speeches. They just close over it and move. What makes you really different? You're human. So if you don't have anything to talk about, start with this. Start with this. Use ChatGPT to create content for you. Use any other chatbot platform to create content for you for the week. Start with the week. Create content for me for the week. What you can do. You can write. You can use audio. You can use YouTube. You can use any platform you think you need to use. But whatever you're doing, in whatever you're doing, ensure that there is a reason at the back that is need to change across all sectors. Automobile, politics, fashion, parental issues, sexual issues, controversies. There's so many subject matters that you can be an expert on. You don't have to do entertainment because everybody's doing entertainment. Right from time I knew I wasn't important for entertainment. I knew it, I wasn't. So I didn't even bother trying to say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is in the building? I'm going to do, you know what I'm saying? All those things. I'm not popular for that kind of thing. I just knew I was this serious person who wanted to interview people, speak to people, and create change. And that's, and that's the reason why, God is helping me, blessing me, and bringing people my way that will help push me from one point to the other. So start today. Let the social media handle of this initiative, let them see shaky, let them know that something is happening. And you can start that. Like each other's posts, comment on each other's posts, encourage each other, one after the other before you know what happened. Somebody here will blow, you will shock, you will say, you know, I know you've been around the world, but let me just take you around one more time. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much.